Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at the second episode of the Kerbal space program. So we're going to be looking at basic flight controls during this episode. So from episode 1 we built the hopper. This episode we're going to use that hopper to have liftoff. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into resume save data and load that up. Just wait for that to load up. Okay, so once we're here, then we want to go to Launchpad. On the last episode we went down to vehicle assembly building, but because we've already built the craft, we're going to want to go to Launchpad, so we'll load that into there. Okay, so once you get here you can have a few options. You can change your flag, edit your vessel and manage your crew. So as you can see in the top left hand corner is the hopper that we built last time, as we named it Mark for the purpose of the video. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to leave everything as it is and go straight to launch. Wait for that to load up there. Okay, so once we're in launch mode, as you can see there's quite a bit going off on the heads up display. A lot of it at this moment in time we don't need to worry about, but I'll go through a few quick basic things with you just for this purpose of this flight. So in the lower centre you've got the nav ball. That's got a lot of instruments on, options, which you can all initiate during flight later on, which we'll go through later on in the episodes. You've got the throttle and the G-force bars as well there on the nav ball. At the top centre of the screen you've got the altimeter, which is basically that shows the distance to the planet's surface at sea level, and then next to that to the right you've got the vertical speed indicator that shows how quickly the altitude is changing. So when launching it's considered best to keep this pointing up, and then just below the altimeter we have the atmosphere gauge. There we go. So what this indicates is how deep the ship is in the planet's atmosphere. This also helps you know if the ship is high enough for orbiting without losing speed to air resistance. It's also good for judging how effective wings and control surface will be as well. Because this hopper operates a solid rocket motor, we're not going to worry about the throttle lever there, as you can see where the cursor is. We'll go into that later on in the episodes. Another quick thing as well worth mentioning is in the lower left hand side you have the stages. So the first stage will be the solid rocket motor, okay, and then it'll be the parachute, which we set up last episode, if you can remember those. Okay, so as well you've got the pitch, roll and yaw. They're all controls that you need to get used to once liftoff has taken place. So for the pitch you'd move the left analog stick up and down, okay, and for the yaw it'd be left analog stick left and right, and then for the roll you would you'd control that by L2 and R2. So these all work well if you can do them all together. They are quite hard to get used to. Myself, I'm still not used to them. I'm still practicing it myself. It's just one of those things you gain over time. Okay, so without further ado, what we're going to do now is we're going to launch the hopper. So in 3, 2, 1, we have liftoff. Okay, so you can see the solid fuel running down on the left hand side of the screen. Okay, and you can also see the parachute is indicating red there, so that's not safe to activate at the moment. So just wait for all that to run out. So the rocket will still climb to a little over 14,000 on the altimeter. At this stage you can practice the pitch and the yaw, as that's rocking it backwards and forwards, and the roll is self-explanatory. That just twists your ship on a vertical axis like that. Okay, so again, they are quite hard to control, as I'll demonstrate here. You do pitch too much, you're gonna start rocking in an uncontrollable state. It's quite hard. Once it is like this, it's quite hard to get back to normal, so you would need to be very familiar with the controls in order to get this back to normal. As you can see, the nav ball's going haywire at the moment. Okay, so the roll as well, that's not really, I was just going to send it on a bit of a more of a haywire as well. Alright, so because that fuel is now empty, the weight is at the pod end, which is why it is now facing downwards. Once the parachute opens up, which I'm going to do now, okay, that will then, once the parachute is fully opened up at 1000 on the altimeter, which we set it at last time, that pod hopper should then rotate facing upwards again. Okay, so let's just wait for that to reach 1000 on the altimeter, and then you should see the chute open. Five, four, three, two, one, and it's open. There we go. And the hopper has now leveled up. So at this stage we're just going to enjoy the descent. Okay, have a quick look around, see about whereabouts we are. Okay, so we're still within the space facility because we've not really gone anywhere, we've not gone high enough, we're not in suborbital levels yet. That's going to be the next level. Okay, so just going to let that descend. As you can see in the lower right hand corner as well, you've got a picture of your astronaut. It looks pretty a bit accurate really, doesn't he? Probably that twisting and rolling we've been doing. Okay, so once that has landed, it is now capsized, which I wasn't wanting it to do as such. Okay, but once it's landed, you can then bring up the cursor by pressing L3, and you can go over the you can either go over the pod and press square, the crew hatch, and you can open it via clicking EVA there, or you can go over to the lower right hand side where the picture is and just click the EVA there. There we go. But it's saying at the moment that all hatches are obstructed and it can't exit, so we've obviously rolled onto the hatch. So what you can do here as well is, you know, the controls have just gone through, so the roll, yaw and pitch. So what we can do is we can try and roll the spacecraft. So there we go. There we go. So we can try and roll that. There we go. I think that's about right. So we'll go back over to EVA. Okay, so as you can see, there's some instructions there. So we click X to get out. As you can see, the astronaut has now got out, and we can now walk around the surface, gathering data. Again, to gather data, you'd select the cursor and hover over the astronaut and press square to bring up the options there. It's not giving us the options to gather any data on Kerbal. Alright, so because I've already gathered that scientific data, so it's not going to allow me to do it again. But that's how this is where it would come up to gather any data, and you can view the EVA report as well and keep the experiment, transmit data, or reset the experiment. So it's just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to click reset experiment. Okay, just to see what that does, and I'm just going to go back over to the Kerbal. And I just thought it might allow us to pick up some more samples, but it's not allowing us to do that. Okay, so yeah, so you can just view the report from this as well. Alright, so yeah, that's basically it for this. One more thing, you can actually enter the craft again as well. I'm just getting used to the controls really. So you'd go up to there, you then press circle, and it's now then back into the pod. Okay, so further on in the game when we start going to the moon, this is how you would go out, collect data, set up bases on the moon, and then enter back into the pod. So that's basically it for this tutorial for episode 2. So for the next episode we're going to look at constructing a bigger aircraft to gain suborbital launch. Alright, so if you've enjoyed this video and you found it useful, hit like. Also subscribe to my channel, Geeks HQ, for more videos. So see you shortly, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.